right before right before Big Hook called in. I don't know why I had Trucker John on the brain, but anyway. Trucker John, that's why I had Trucker John on the brain, because Trucker John just came into the chat. Look at that. It's like I summoned. He's like Joe Hendry from wrestling, if you hadn't. Say his name and he appears. I believe in Trucker John. Anyway, if you know it, you know it. If you don't, well, whatever. But that was almost as good as my summoning of Aaron twice. Once on this stream, once on the Nerdy Dan stream. First time with Aaron, it was when I played the Aaron horn, the air horn, and she showed up. And then the other time was Aaron. It was the first time I ever had the Buy Me a Coffee link up. And I was sitting there saying about how I wish somebody could do it live so that we could see it happening live. And that's somewhere on my YouTube channel. And then all of a sudden, I get a super chat from Aaron. And I'm like, wait, what? Because she couldn't have possibly heard it by the time, with the delay, she couldn't have heard it, when I said it. And it hadn't popped up. So it was just so bizarre and so random and so just awesome. So anyway, let's see. Trucker John, my ears are ringing. Well, yeah, I hadn't even seen your chat come up, but you hadn't. My voice hadn't even gone through the interwebs. So it's one of the other amazing things that could happen in the show, I guess. So I'm making lots of hand motions today, apparently. I think I noticed in some of those videos I had made a lot of hand motions in those as well. CR, good to see you. Thank you for joining. See, not 1 billion unfair after a resignation and apology. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, let's talk about that first. Let's talk about what Steve from across the pond
If it's no Scottish, it's crap.
had brought up, because we have Donald Trump has threatened to sue the BBC for $1 billion, deepening the crisis at Britain's main public broadcaster over the coverage of his administration. Easy for me to say. The move comes a day after the unexpected resignation of the broadcaster's director general and its most senior news executive. The pair had come under fire over coverage of the president's remarks on January 6, 2021, the day after, or the day rioters breached the U.S. Congress. The BBC spokesperson said Monday, "We will review the letter and respond directly in due course." Director General Tim Davie and CEO of News Deborah Turnus both announced their exits from the corporation Sunday night, triggering an unprecedented leadership crisis at the BBC following a week of torrid headlines questioning the broadcaster's political impartiality, with a series of direct attacks from figures on the right of British politics, as well as Trump's own team. A letter from Trump's legal team obtained by Politico gives the BBC a deadline of 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this coming Friday, the 14th, to retract any false, defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements about him, and accuses the broadcaster of doing overwhelming financial and reputational harm to the president. I call BS on that. There is no way that them showing even an edited clip of what Donald Trump said on January 6th. I haven't seen the clip, mind you, but there's no way that this is going to cause overwhelming financial and reputational harm to the president. I mean, he's making money hand over fist as president. So the fact that, they're reporting that he said terrible things and maybe put them in a weird order or something, I don't know. Again, I'm not aware as to what the whole video said, and I just found out about this today, so maybe we'll go over it Wednesday. I don't know. Failure to comply with the letter means Trump is left with no alternative but to enforce his legal and equitable rights, all of which are expressly reserved and are not waived, including the filing legal action of no less than $1 billion. It adds, the BBC is on notice. Spokesman for Trump's team said the BBC defamed President Trump by intentionally and deceitfully editing its documentary in order to try and interfere with the presidential election. President Trump will continue to hold accountable those who traffic in lies, deception, and fake news. Of course, that's what Donald Trump does. He puts insane lawsuits out there and hopes that the media will settle so that he can make even more money. So that's what he's going to do probably yet again. I'm sure the BBC will cave and they'll settle for maybe $100 million or something. $100 million. And then, whatever. But he'll get himself more and more wealthy while, using his power as president to threaten other people. And that's just par for the course for this lawless administration. So I guess it's good I'm not that big, because you come after me for $1 billion. Well, Guess what? You ain't getting squat. Anyway, especially if you come after Liberal Dan Radio for $1 billion, that's even more. FDJT, yeah, well, hopefully we can get those FDT shirts up as well soon. Hope I'll have to reach out to my my stepsister again. Hey Jackie, good to see you. Who else did I see? Anybody jump in? Let's see. They left out the part about him saying be peaceful. It's not $1 billion worth, but definitely worth admitting and apologizing over. Yeah, but how important is the be peaceful part? That's what I would say. How important was Donald Trump's be peaceful words when he then said you have to fight like hell, and he then said he wanted to march over there with them, and then he did nothing for how many hours whilst throwing ketchup at the wall, supposedly, and, watching the assault on the Capitol happen in real time and not take any action, which basically showed that he tacitly approved of their actions. And then he pardoned every single goddamn one of them, with the exception of maybe 6 or 8 whose sentences he commuted. Like the super, super, super high-ups, he commuted their sentences. But everybody else, from the people that assaulted cops, from the people that broke things in the Capitol, from just the people who were wandering around, everybody got a pardon. So it seems to me that he tacitly has supported what those people did. I mean, he called it peace. What he called a peaceful protest. Peace. He said that what they did was peaceful. He said be peaceful, but then he said what he did was peaceful. So was that code? I don't know. Or maybe it was just him being able to say, be peaceful, knowing full well that they were not going to be peaceful. And then he tried to gaslight everybody into saying that they were a peaceful crowd, which is full of shit. Simple as that. So if that's really what they edited out, the be peaceful part, and he's, has his panties in a twist over that, or as they might say in the BBC, he might have his knickers in a twist instead of his panties. They might say knickers, right? Am I right there, Steve from across the pond? But anyway, regardless of what types of undergarments he might have in a twist, guess what? He called violence peace. He doesn't understand the meaning of words. Although he'll tell us that he has the best words, no one has better words, right? So, yeah, Victor Harshman, we're living in a banana republic at this point. Pretty much. Yes, exactly. It's nothing but monkey business. Liberal Dan, let's see, BBC is funded by by us, 23.8 million of us. I was like, funded by I thought you said funded by the US. No, funded by the people over there across the pond, if you will. Let's see, Chad, I mostly agree he doesn't deserve money out of it, but I think they should bare minimum acknowledge they deceptively left out the part to keep the story all hate. I don't know. I don't know if they should say, yes, we left out the part where he said be peaceful. We will leave it up to the viewers to see if that had any bearing on what they feel about the president or not. Simple as that. They could just do that. They would say, look, we admit that we left out the peaceful part. They don't have to say it was purposeful or not, because who knows if it was purposeful or not. But if it was purposeful, whatever. If it was not purposeful, whatever. Because you could look up the full quote if you wanted. And then, again, he told them to be peaceful, and yet they were not. And yet he stopped them from doing anything. He didn't, he didn't stop them from doing anything specifically, or more precisely. And then he called them peaceful afterwards. So if that's what he meant by peaceful, leaving out be peaceful really didn't mean a whole hell of a lot, right? Frankly, I don't care. This administration lies so much. They are so non-truthful about almost everything that goes on. Like, why would you believe that? Why would they be believed about anything? That any omission on the part of the BBC could do nothing to make him look any worse than he already does. Thank you, Chad, for gifting 5 Liberal Dan memberships. 5 more Liberal Danimals. Thank you to Chad for that. Appreciate you. Hello, Molly. Good to see you. Thank you for joining. Joy to see you, indeed. Although I don't recognize any of those other 4 people who got gifts. So, anyway, as Donald Trump says,
It is what it is.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a day of love. Yes, it was a day of love. I don't think Donald Trump knows the meaning of the word love either. So, BBC has some of the best programming, especially in science and technology specials. Yes, they do. Good to see you, Big Hook. Thank you for joining. Let's see. What else to talk about? MJ Daniel, good to see you. Yes, this administration is corrupt AF. I just want to give a little bit of a warning. The last topic of the show that I will talk about today, and maybe at least before we get into the phone calls, if we do get into the phone calls, because again, I had a very exhausting weekend. If I start feeling tired, I'm going to go, whatever. Might go fall asleep just, live on the air. I almost did that, I think, last Monday. That was crazy. Monday or Wednesday. I was exhausted either last Monday or last Wednesday. It was probably obvious that I was, but anyway. What's next? What do we want to talk about? What comes next? Anyway, Donald Trump and his $2,000 tariff dividends. Donald Trump, after I guess realizing that he got pasted on Tuesday's elections, and one of the reasons being that he understands that these tariffs are being paid for by the American taxpayers. In fact, Trump's legal team, when questioned by Chief Justice Roberts, answered the question that yes, the U.S. taxpayers do pay the tariffs. And so, according to Fortune.com, Trump's $2,000 tariff dividends would cost twice as much as the revenue coming in, budget watchdogs warn. President Trump's recent proposal to pay Americans at least $2,000 a person in a policy that he would call tariff dividends is facing sharp criticism from a budget watchdog who calculates that the plan will lose twice as much money for the country as the tariffs are generating. Writing in a weekend post on Truth Social, Trump argued that the tariff revenues could be redistributed directly to individuals in the form of annual payments, with high-income people excluded. The idea, pitched as a way to both reward taxpayers and possibly reduce the national debt, bears a strong resemblance to the COVID-era economic impact payments by CRFB, but the numbers reveal a steep fiscal challenge. The CRFB estimates that distributing just a single round of $2,000 in tax payments to Americans, calculated to match the COVID payments, which included both adults and children, would cost the federal government around $600 billion per year. By contrast, the tariffs that Trump has championed has raised about $100 billion to date, and even if you're accounting for impending legal cases, they are only projected to raise about $300 billion annually going forward. Deficits could skyrocket. Well, yes, if you're bringing in $300 billion and then paying out to the taxpayer $600 billion, then yes, that's going to add to the deficit. Shocking, I know. Math is hard for some of these people. But, I don't understand. Like, if a Democrat or any progressive, liberal, leftist type person would have said, we should give $2,000 dividends to the public based off of the tariffs because they're going to redistribute them, they'll be like, oh, look, socialism right there. It's socialism doing the, that whole meme thing, with the pointing with, what's his face? Anyway, it would be socialism. But when, like, for example, Alaska does. I remember Sarah Palin, when she was running for vice president, she was bringing up the fact that Alaska charges the oil companies a whole bunch of money, I guess as taxes for the business that they do in the state of Alaska, and then they pay out dividends to the people of Alaska. Why is that not socialism too? But if a left-leaning, progressive, leftist, Democrat-type person decides that they were going to do something like this, like if we were to say, let's just give UBI instead of just, this thing, they would be like, oh, that's wealth redistribution, that's socialism, they're communists, look at what they're doing, they're trying to take your money and from the rich and steal. This is the reason why people are suggesting that people are going to leave New York City, because they think that Mamdani is going to be taking money from all the wealthy people and funneling it into free busing and lower rent and free cheaper food stores or whatever, But they've been saying this about New York for at least, 10 years, or if not more? Oh, this is the year that all the people are going to leave New York City. And then it didn't happen. So next year, this is the year that everybody's going to leave New York City. And then it doesn't happen. This is the reason why. So now it's Mamdani. Next year will be some other reason why everybody's leaving New York City. Meanwhile, nobody's going to leave New York City because it's a concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can't do. But yeah, such projections come at a time when annual budget deficits are nearing $2 trillion. And national debt is quickly approaching an all-time high, making fiscal discipline a top concern for watchdogs and policy analysts. So it's important. Republicans will tell us under Democrats that it's important to cut budgets and cut spending and whatever. That's why Doge took the chainsaw, but then, of course, they had to reverse a lot of the Doge cuts. And now he wants to give a $2,000 tariff dividend to people. It's absurd. It's hypocrisy. Of course, every conservative accusation is basically a confession. If Dozy down or shutting down the programs, what are the taxes for? Cosplay Santa. Cosplay or cosplay? Because if it's cosplay, that sounds more like Bill Cosby, and that's also... See, the deficits, they have brought in roughly $260 billion so far, the estimate for adults. So no high earners, almost $300 billion, so he's close. I'll take $2,000. Look, I'm not going to deny the $2,000 if it's given to me, and my wife won't deny it either if it's given to her either. And maybe there'll be some calculations, or if you have kids, maybe they'll pop up a little more. I don't know. We don't have the specifics on the plan because we never get specifics from any plan because Donald Trump changes his mind from day to day to day to day to day. From agreeing with the court order that they'll follow the court order to we're not going to follow the court order until the shutdown happens, to give SNAP benefits, to all these other things that they've gone back and forth on. Meanwhile, the courts are saying, look, you have to pay it. And he's like, well, no, we won't. Well, maybe we'll pay half. Well, maybe we'll pay none again. Maybe we'll pay half again. Lather, rinse, repeat, cause confusion, which then allows markets to become destabilized. He sells, the market drops, he buys, and all the rich people get richer. Lather, rinse, repeat. That's how he's enriching himself. At least one of the ways that he's enriching himself off of the backs of the American taxpayers, the American consumers, etc. And until this $2,000 dividend takes place, which would require an act of Congress, until that takes place, we're still having American taxpayers shouldering the burden for much of the tariffs. Again, I'm not going to say that all of the tariffs are paid for by American consumers, simply because of the fact that there are some circumstances where the price of a certain good or service might not fluctuate as much as the tariff fluctuates simply because of price elasticity of demand. And if there are other alternatives that you could buy, then they might not be able to pass on the full cost of the tariffs to the people. Some of it will have to come out of profits. But usually there's still a lot that's going to be paid for by the American consumers, and it's being found out to the detriment of many MAGA folks who are realizing that the face-eating leopards are rapidly eating their faces. So, speaking of SNAP benefits, with the Supreme Court ruling on Friday that there was a stay on the order requiring the payment of these SNAP benefits. It says the memorandum is a follow-up to the guidance shared on October 10th, October 24th, November 4th, November 5th, and November 7th regarding Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program SNAP benefits for November 2025. The U.S. Supreme Court granted the U.S. Department of Agricultural administrative say... Let's just start over again, shall we? The U.S. Department... Let me start over for a third time because apparently reading is hard. Maybe I do too much Trump impressions and that really just weakens your brain. I have the best brain. Nobody has a better brain. The U.S. Supreme Court granted the U.S. Department of Agriculture an administrative stay on the orders issued by the District Court of Rhode Island and State Council of Churches et al. Versus Rollins, pending any explicit direction to the contrary from the Food and Nutrition Services. States must not transmit full benefit issuance to EBT processors. Instead, states must continue to process and load the partial issuance files that reflect the 35% reduction of maximum allotments detailed on the November 5th guidance. To the extent that states sent full SNAP payment for November 2025, their language is really weird. This was unauthorized. Accordingly, states must immediately undo any steps taken to issue full SNAP benefits for November 2025. Please advise the appropriate FNS regional office representative of steps taken to correct any actions taken that do not comply with this memorandum. Per 7 CFR 271-7H, failure to comply with this memorandum may result in USDA taking various actions, including cancellation of the federal share of state administrative costs and holding states liable for any overissuances that result in noncompliance. We are committed to keeping you as up-to-date as possible, blah, 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 blah. So basically, this administration is fighting very hard. I mean, they could have done what Biden did. When a court said and told Biden that he was not able to determine or to not spend allocated or appropriated funds that were meant to be spent on the border wall, guess what Biden did? I mean, he challenged the ruling a little bit up to the Fifth Circuit, but then he didn't keep fighting it, which is I'm annoyed at. But he still followed the rules and was required to then pay. But if the court ruled that way, then this court is ruling that Donald Trump can't not spend allocated funds that were appropriated for SNAP benefits in a contingency that, other SNAP payments weren't coming due. And he could have done exactly that, but guess what? He didn't, and he's now fighting to starve people. He is fighting to make sure that people can't eat who can't afford to eat. How can anybody support this? And then he's going to say, oh, well, we're going to give you all $2,000. Meanwhile, everyone's SNAP benefits are SOL. Right? And meanwhile, the people running this Department of Health, or involved with our supposed health of the nation, one of whom being Dr. Oz, he states that Americans could lose 135 billion pounds by midterm elections with new weight loss drug pricing. That would require every American to lose, on average, 300 pounds a person, roughly? My math might not be completely 100% accurate, but it's somewhere like that. Now, apparently, later, Dr. Oz said that he meant to say 135 million pounds instead of 135 billion pounds, which is, a difference of a whole crap ton, which would then, be 30 pounds a person or whatever, which is not bad. And yes, it's good that these GLP-1, GLP-2 drugs are becoming more available and becoming more priceful. If they're priced, the availability of those drugs are made more affordable, then guess what? People are going to get the benefits of the said drugs. I mean, look, I've lost 130 pounds now. I'm ahead of the curve, I suppose. So, and then once my right knee gets fixed on Thursday, and then once I'm able to walk around, I'll be able to do more walking and maybe probably lose more weight on top of the weight I'm already losing because of the Zepbound that I'm currently on. Dr. Oz says 135 million pounds drastically changes the architecture of illness in America. It might change the architecture at all. I mean, you might not have to build as sturdy bridges, right? Anyway, do I agree that GLP-1 and GLP-2 medicine should be able to be more affordable and more accessible to people when they need it? Because obesity is often the symptom and not the problem in and of itself. But in other cases, sometimes it is the problem that, it can cause other issues. But these GLP-1 medications have been shown to have other benefits to the people taking them, like benefits to their heart, benefits. I think even it has shown that it might have reversed liver damage in some people. So that's all well and good, but, the fact that he said 135 billion pounds that we would lose just goes to show how we don't have the best and the brightest people working for this administration. It's as simple as that. Let's see. Have we ended up paying more than $2,000 so far this year in inflation and disruption of the economy? No SNAP, but free Ozempic. Yeah, exactly. That's how they're going to lose pounds. Maybe that's how they're going to... 250 kilo ohm makes a great point. Maybe that's how we're going to lose weight. Not because of the added accessibility and cheaper prices of Zepbound and Ozempic and other types of drugs, but because we're not getting food stamps anymore, so all the people on food stamps are not going to be able to eat, so they'll be losing weight because of that. Maybe that's their big plan. More to like a Swiftian type of modest proposal, if you will. So... see how it goes. To your health. To life! Or that's to life. That's not to health. L'chaim. I guess to health. Refuah. Or refuah is to health? Yeah, I think so. Certain Monkey. I lose 130 pounds every time I buy Nike trainers. They're comfy though. Time to pass out. Nice. Trump covering the medicine and the calorie deficit. I mean, that's basically the same joke that I made, right? So... guess you have a good sense of humor, right? So, we're going to record this one too, just in case, because this is going to be one of these, and you'll not see the chat first for a smidge, because time for one of these, shall we? Earlier in the show, I was discussing the fact how Donald Trump realizing how much he got shellacked in the elections. He got absolutely shellacked. Democrats won nationwide. Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side. But Donald Trump isn't. And neither are these Democrats, because Donald Trump actually recognized that he got whooped. His butt got whooped in last week's elections. And now he's trying to do something like, let's bribe the people with, $2,000, as a one-shot payment for the tariff dividends. So that's his idea. But the Democrats, 8 Senate Democrats, voted to end the shutdown of the government. Apparently didn't get the memo that last Tuesday meant that the American public blamed Trump and the Republican Party for these shutdowns and resoundingly and resolutely said, F you, we're electing the Democrats. So what did these 8 Democratic asshats do? These senators who can't leave office quickly enough? What did they do? They voted with the Republicans. And what did they get for this? Nothing. They got nothing. Absolutely nothing. 100% jack squat. They got a vote, a promise that the Senate might vote on healthcare, on extending those healthcare, extended Affordable Care Act credits. They might get a vote out of it. It doesn't mean that the vote's going to pass. And it doesn't do anything for the House that'll not take that up either. It'll die on the way to the House. But they're like, that's the only thing we had on the table. The only thing we had on the table was this deal. No, you had a proposal on the table. It's not your fault. It's not the Democratic Party's fault that the Republicans refused to come to the table and be good actors and reach a compromise between the two. But no, these 8 Democrats decided that they were just going to fold, bend over for Trump and the Republicans and whatever, and basically just say, hey, we are not going to pay any attention to what the Democrats nationwide and to what the voters nationwide, especially in Georgia. Georgia, Democrats won 2 statewide seats in an off-year election. Off-year elections are better for conservatives because turnout's typically low. But we had high turnout. We had a high turnout for an off-year election, at least. We got the vote out. We sent the message. We disagree with the Republicans. And all of the American electorate, or at least the majority of the American electorate, said it's the Republicans' fault. We don't like Trump. We don't like what Trump is doing. But yet these Democrats caved and got nothing in response.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
So let's see who these idiots are. I mean, it's been covered in the news, but it needs to be covered again because F you and all the horses that y'all rode in on, or maybe the donkeys you rode in on. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada voted 15 times to end the federal shutdown, even before Democrats had extracted the promise of a vote of the healthcare tax. She repeatedly stated she did not want to inflict sweeping pain on some Americans in order to extract a solution to the impending healthcare crisis. So let's not have a crisis in one way and create a crisis the other way, because you're not going to get anything, you dumbass. The pain that you're going to cause by allowing this to happen could make whatever pain that Americans were feeling pale in comparison. But go ahead, you do you. Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. Sure, one of Chad's favorite senators, right? Durbin is the Democratic whip, the only member of party leadership who voted with the Republicans. His likely successor is Brian Schatz in Hawaii. Excuse me, voted against advancing the deal, sticking with Schumer and Durbin in March. Says the bill is not perfect. Not perfect? It's not nothing. It's nothing. The bill is nothing. You got a big nothing burger.
You get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir.
Durbin says, now that the Democrats secured these wins, it's time for Leader Thune to keep his promise to schedule a vote. What wins? What the fuck good of is a vote if it's not going to pass? You have given up every single ounce of leverage that you had to protect Americans from seeing their health insurance costs skyrocket over this. When it was clear and plain as day that the American public were blaming the Republicans. You had no reason to step aside and let the Republicans have their way. John Fetterman. Well, John Fetterman's John Fetterman. We don't have to talk about him. He's useless. He's gone crazy in the head, and that's all we have to say about John Fetterman. Senator Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire. She negotiated the vote on the Affordable Care. Again, negotiated what? Again, a vote means nothing if it won't pass. You won't pass that vote. It won't be extended, and Americans will suffer because of it. I've heard from Granite Staters who can't afford the doubling of their health insurance costs. Well, then you should have stuck to your guns, you dumbass. You should have stuck to your guns and not, cave to the Republicans and their BS. Make Thune come to the table. Make Thune at least, you did the right thing. The Democrats are doing the right thing in asking for many things, and they even retracted that a bit to say, look, we will stop if you give us an extension, 1-year extension. That's all they asked for. A clean 1-year extension, allow some debates to take place. Did that happen? No. Why? Because these 8 Democrats are idiots. Tim Kaine, probably the one that I'm shocked at the most. Kaine represents about 150,000 federal workers affected by the shutdown, says the legislation will protect federal workers from baseless firings, reinstate those who have been wrongfully terminated during the shutdown, and ensure federal workers receive back pay. Kaine admitted Sunday night that he was a latecomer to the group, saying, I joined it 48 hours ago, not for lack of interest. Well, in 48 hours, you screwed over those people in your state, because a lot of them are going to be screwed over when they don't get their health care costs covered that they need to, and more people are going to choose to go without insurance because the Trump administration is not going to enforce the mandate. So guess what? More people are going to be uninsured, which means more people will have, skyrocketing health costs if something to their detriment happens. Angus King of Maine, an independent who caucuses with the Democrats. He was a key negotiator on the deal struck to guarantee a vote on the tax credits once the government is open. And it's not going to pass. You're a dumbass, too. As former governor of Maine, King pointed to the pain the shutdown is causing. And that is a pain, again, that the nation as a whole said it's the Republicans' fault. The Democrats are not to blame. The Republicans are the ones to blame, or at least the Republicans are the ones that are mainly to blame. And you just threw that away because you're a fucking moron, too. Jackie Rosen of Nevada. Rosen joined her fellow Nevadan Cortez Masto to advance the deal, representing a state where 95,000 Nevadans utilize the ACA tax credits, and they're going to be screwed because you didn't use the power that you had as the minority power, the minority party, where you could basically go, hey, we're not going to give in until you guys give us what we want in these tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. She goes, Trump and his Republican cronies on Capitol Hill do not give a damn about hurting working people. Right, which is why you shouldn't believe them that you're getting anything of value here. You traded the horse for some hay. Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire was original sponsor of the legislation that created the enhanced Obamacare tax credits that have been central to the shutdown dispute. Like Durbin, she is retiring from that. And that's the other thing. Durbin and Shaheen are retiring. They had no political reasons to do this. They could have just said, we're going to do the right thing and use our power as the minority, the only power that we have in the minority. We're going to use that power and continue this filibuster until they come to the table. Force them to come to the table. Because, again, the American public blames the Republicans and not you. And now what have you done? You've shown that, what? 6 times 8 is like 1/6 to 1/5 of the Democratic Party in the United States Senate are spineless, gutless, brainless cowards who all need to be replaced with people who are Democrats or who will caucus with the Democratic Party. Because I'm not going to say that we should replace them with Republicans, because that would be, cutting off your nose to spite your face. But they need to be replaced. They need to be primaried in states where they have primaries. If there's none of these states with jungle primaries, otherwise need to be convinced to step down and be replaced with other Democrats or other independents who will lean to the left and caucus with the Democrats and say, we are going to be the ones who will stand up to the Republican bullies and who aren't going to give away the entire farm for the promise that you might get some crops out of it afterward. You might. It's completely and utter BS. And head is just exploding. When I saw that come on the news on Sunday, that there was a potential deal coming and that the deal wasn't going to include a requirement to extend those tax credits, I'm like, I know what I'm going to be talking about on today's show. Because when Democrats do something fucking stupid, I am going to be critical of them for being fucking stupid. And to Schumer's credit, he didn't join in. To the credit of the vast majority of the Democrats in the Senate, they didn't cave either. But these 8 were all you needed. As a TV show said, 8 is enough. 8 was enough to screw this country over. 8 was enough to completely derail any momentum that the Democrats have. Because now what are the people going to say? Oh, we've lost our tax credits because these 8 spineless Democratic cowards who caved into the Republican Party and believed them. It's just like Lucy with the football yet again. Charlie Brown's, oh, maybe this time I'm going to get to kick the football. Nope. Take the football away. You don't get to kick the football. Same thing goes with these 8 losers, these 8 Democratic idiots, these spineless senators who keep thinking, I guess, that they're going to kick the football. Now, one of the MSNBC folks this afternoon was even like, do you trust the White House? No, I don't trust the White House. Then why are you making this deal? Because it wasn't a deal. Calling this a deal is, an insult to the name of deals. Because this was just a giveaway. You gave away everything to the Republicans, including the momentum you had last Tuesday. And I might have said that 5 times in this video, but I don't care because I'm pissed off and this is a fat man rant, so you're going to get a much more animated me for this fat man rant. And if you're pissed off, leave your comments down below as well. And let these 8 spineless senator coward Democrats, 7 Democrats and 1 independent, let them know how stupid they are and how they failed. We need the green arrow right now. You have failed the Senate. Whatever. Hey, it's Kimchi. Kimchi has entered the chat. Good to see you, Kimchi. 250 kilo leaves a football emoji there. Let's see. What else? Let's scroll on back to the chat to see what I might have missed. What did I miss? What do I miss? Schumer needs to resign for not keeping the Senate together. That's a good point, Karen. That is a very good point. That Schumer, even though he could have just convinced one of those morons to stay on board. And we would be fine. But yeah, he had a job to do, so he should resign for that. But at least he stuck with it and still voted against it. CBS just reported the Senate just passed it to open the government. It was a news update so nice you said it twice. Hey, Bethany, good to see you, even though I was ranting. Let's see. If we use wanker, then maybe social media won't give us edit alerts. What? Let's see. What else did I miss? What's up, Michael? Haha, Trump is winning. Well, Trump is losing. And then the Democrats are like, all right, we'll bend over for you. Chad goes, my cynical view is they shut it down specifically for government-heavy areas to really turn out. Not saying it's true, but damn, the timing matches. I said that on Wednesday. I mean, you were predicting a cave, and I was like, well, if they cave, I want to be pissed. And they caved, and I'm pissed. Aaron, don't be like me. Hit that like. Well, I'm sure you've hit the like now, so be like Aaron now. Don't be like Aaron 20 minutes ago. Let's see. Steve, Serena Monkey, whatever. Honestly, I know you all got this thing with Dems today, but the BBC thing drove me up the wall. 31 pounds from me. F right o. Give them a good Rolgering. Let's see. Serena Monkey, but now they have to swear in the vote needed to release the Epstein files, or am I being stupid? I mean, they're going to have to come back and vote on this in the House. So if they have to come back and vote on this in the House, and so the House is doing official business, I can't imagine that Mike Johnson will be able to get away to not swearing in the last vote. But, you know, Jeff Goldblum says nature finds a way. I guess idiots find a way too, and corrupt idiots more, you know, even better or even worse, whatever. He might very well find a way to avoid swearing her in yet again, but he'll find some stupid excuse. But he shouldn't be able to. Still doesn't mean that Nike Johnson will reopen the House. We had so much momentum after no kings in the elections, and 7 Dems effed it all up. Yep, 7 Dems and 1 independent who leans with the Dems. Let's see. Suzanne, I don't think anybody donated 31 pounds. I think that's what they pay to the BBC. To Tim Farrell, the laziest healthcare plan in the history of any plans of any kind ever. Here's a couple grand. You figure it out. Yeah, pretty much. And look, most likely, whatever's going on with healthcare, it doesn't affect me. It's not affecting me at all because I have a private-based health plan, and it's not getting rid of the requirements of the Affordable Care Act. It's just getting rid of the subsidies for the people who use or at least the extended subsidies for people that use the exchange. So it doesn't affect me at the moment, but it could at some point in the future. But even if it never would affect me in the future, I'd still be pissed off because these Democrats are fucking cowards. Hey, Dawn. To see you. Victor says going to watch Bernie on Rachel real quick. You do you, brah. You can always come back. It's no problem. Yeah. Dick is retiring this year. That's what he joined. But Dick retiring is the reason why he shouldn't have joined. Dick Durbin retiring is the reason why he had no reason to cave. He didn't have to be afraid of voters. He could have stood his ground and done the right thing. But he did the wrong thing. And now the leopards are going to eat his face too. The Republican version of the leopards. Suzanne, when will they reinstate our SNAP benefits? Well, supposedly they will reinstate the SNAP benefits once the government reopens. At least that's what Trump said. But if you believe Trump for anything, he says, you know, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Suzanne says the final vote is Wednesday, next Monday at the earliest. I mean, if he gets everybody. I mean, he did tell people who were in Congress, in the House of Representatives, to start making their way back in post-haste. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. No, you're not, Jeff. You're in the J Squad. God bless the J Squad. Jolie, as a Jeffrey, I looked down on the Jeffrey and God forbids the G Jeffs. Thank you, Kimchi, for supporting my rant. Haven't done a fat man rant in a while, so it's good to be able to have one coming up. Yeah, Aaron and Jolie are the mod squad, but there's the mod squad, then there's the J squad. And Jolie just happens to be part of both. The intersection of Jolie is the intersection of the J squad and of the set of all J squatters and the set of all mod squatters. So a little math lesson for you today on Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from left, that's right. Just again a little warning. Ooh, hitting my. Let's push that in so I don't hit it again. Just a little warning for something that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes or a little bit. We are going to be covering the topic of rape culture and the rape case in Oklahoma. So just giving you fair warning that if the topic of frank discussions of sexual assault and rape are bothersome to you, then I will fully understand if you feel like you have the need to back out and not participate in that part of the show, simply because of the fact that I understand that it can be triggering to many people. I just want to let everybody know with plenty of time, and I'll remind you once or twice that that's going to be coming up soon. But again, I don't know if this is going to be another fat man rant or if this is just going to be another rant in general that's not labeled a fat man rant, simply because of the fact that, this is some bullshit right here. See, Victor Harshman, we got a notice from Providence Health that our ACA insurance is going up $400 a month, and we just have a bronze plan. Ugh, that's terrible. Josh, Jolie also eats Cheetos with a fork. The crunchy ones or the soft ones? Sums. Let's see, and because I remember when I was on an ACA plan, it was well, when I was on an ACA plan, I actually just during the pandemic I got shunted over to Medicaid because they were like, nope, you don't make enough money at the moment. So let's see. So Jolie, I got all into it with a PC builder channel guy once, small streamer, all friends, just a me thing. Calling arithmetic math is like learning the alphabet and calling yourself an author. Fair enough. Both, Liberal Dan. Yes. Both. Both is good. Anyway. Let's turn off that thing. Let us kind of check that. Oh, there is one more thing to talk about before this. So we'll have another opportunity or two. Wait, someone who said what? Is it the art of the deal personified? I guess. I don't know. I missed something. See. It's okay, but have a $9,000. Oh my God. I cannot believe a $9,000. Is that a full family deductible or is that a $9,000 individual deductible? Because that's terrible. To be able to have I guess that's one failure of the Affordable Care Act, is that you should not be able to have a $9,000 deductible before you start getting into cost sharing. Is it a $9,000 deductible and then everything else is covered at 100% totally? I mean, you do get your preventive care. I mean, so there is preventive care. Like, you'll get your annual well visits. For women who get breast screenings, whatever. So those should be covered at men getting colonoscopies, or women too, I guess. 100% first dollar coverage for all of the preventive care issues. But still, a $9,000 deductible that's some BS. I mean, the one time when I had a bronze plan at work, the deductible was a $2,400 family deductible, or maybe I think it was a family deductible, and it was met by the entire family. And once you hit that, everything was covered except for insurance, except for prescription copays, and that was it. And my wife hit hers like on the 2nd of every year because of one of the drugs that she was on. Prescription medicines that she was on, not drugs. As my youngest son likes to say, like, I need to go to the drugstore. And like, you're getting drugs? I'm like, stop it. We're not getting illegal drugs. We're getting prescription drugs from the drugstore. See, Victor Harshman, $9,000, but everything after that is supposed to be covered. Wife and I together. So, okay, so it's a $9,000 family deductible, but it's also a $9,000 out of pocket. Is anything covered with like a copayment or like a prescription copay or something like that? Like, do you have to pay full cost for all prescriptions as well until you get to that $9,000, or do you have to pay for, with the exception of preventive care visits, do you have to pay for other things other than that, or is it everything is full cost, or at least in network costs until you hit your $9,000? That's the question that I would want to know, because as of right now, it's ugh. Let's see. What did a certain monkey ask in order for me to, while we're waiting for that answer? What's a $400 a month hourly pay raise? I think that's what he was picking on, the hourly pay raise thing. Yeah. I just asked for hourly G's. I know you hate maths, but LOL. That's funny. I bet Dinky can't count on his toes or fingers anymore. Victor, prescriptions mostly covered. So mostly covered at 100% before the $9,000, or you have to pay, you do pay a co-payment on those prescriptions, and the $9,000 is for medical costs up into whatever the $9,000. I know I'm getting really technical and diving deep here, but back when I used to work at my old job, one of my old jobs, my first job out of college, I was basically the non-benefits guy that people would come to with benefits questions, because I made it a purpose to understand all three of the plans that my employer offered, so I could tell each person which plan was the best for them, because for some people, the bronze plan was the best one. For some people, the silver plan was the best one. And for nobody, the gold plan was the best one, because the bronze plan covered you much better than the gold plan ever did. So, before the $9,000. All right. I mean, I guess that's a little better, especially if you're prescription heavy. I don't know if you're prescription heavy or not, but I guess what I would ask, though, is the 400 increase. It's being increased by 400, but what's the base? What was the cost last year before? And here's the other question that I have, and here's the other question I'm thinking about, is because the reason that they included these subsidies is to allow people to get them ahead of time and then have them, I guess, rededucted back, or not have the tax credits on their taxes. If I'm correct, and I could be wrong, it's very well possible that you could get, you still might get the tax credits after the fact, but the problem is that you get the tax credits for the year previous credited, I guess, as an offset by the subsidies that are paid by the government. So I don't know if they've eliminated the subsidies and the tax breaks, or if it's just the subsidies. So it's very well possible that somebody might have to come out of pocket. You, for example, might have to come out of pocket for $400 more a month, but you still might get that back on your taxes. I don't know what the answer to that is. I haven't done enough research into that to determine if that's the case or not. But even if that is the case, and you're going to get it back on your taxes in 14 months or so? Or more than 14 months, because you have to wait for the end of this year. I guess you have to wait to file. Maybe it's less than the end of this year for the prices to go up, then 12 months of benefits, and then you file your taxes, and then you have to wait for whenever you file your taxes, which means you probably won't get it back till March, or maybe February, maybe March or something. So you might have to wait a whole, 15, 16 months to get this. So and I'm understanding it that way too, Victor, that the way you understand it is if you had a $100,000 hospital, you don't have to pay $9,000. Which makes sense, and that's how it should work, unless for some reason they made, unless there's an individual deductible included, because sometimes if you have a $9,000 family deductible, it might be split $4,500 and $4,500. For example, me and my wife have our individual deductibles, and then we both have maximum out of pockets. Everybody in our family has a $4,000 maximum out of pocket. So when my wife hit when she hit her maximum out of pocket for the year, then we still had to pay some things, but her costs stopped. But then when I hit my maximum out of pocket, the $4,000 of individual of mine, or at least I got us up to the $8,000 family out of pocket. So basically my and my two kids' benefits, or whatever we charge, gathered up that other $4,000, combined together for the $8,000, and that's what you do. So I don't know. The subsidies are calculated on your yearly gross income. I understand that, but subsidies are also calculated on your yearly gross income to offset tax credits. So I don't know if by eliminating the subsidies, do they eliminate the tax credits that go along with it? Or if somebody was able to pay the increase, like you're paying $400 extra a month in your Affordable Care Act plan, if somebody's able to pay that initial upfront cost of $400 extra a month every month, is that person then going to get that 400 times 12, i.e. $4,800 back on their tax return when they submit their refund for their year 2026 taxes? That's my ultimate question when it comes to that. So as Steve is trying to teach people how to do math, or how to do arithmetic or calculations, or counting or whatever, I just did the same thing in my head. So there you go. But I've always been good at math. So, as Donald Trump says,
it is what it is.
Thank you. Steve, people in America can't spell arithmetic, and so they say math. People in America also can't say aluminum, apparently, properly. There's a Matt Rife comedy bit where he's in, I think, either England or Ireland or something, and he has Irish lass talking to him, and he's insistent that it's when she says aluminium, they was like, what did you just say? And he refused to believe that aluminum is spelled aluminium. And then he looked it up online and saw that it was spelled aluminium. And then he starts doing like Harry Potter curses and trying to kill everybody with Avada Kedavra or whatever it is. So, Chad, we should find a better way than handing subsidies over to big pharma corporations straight to the rich. That's maybe one of the most progressive things you said on this chat in the entire time that I've known you on this show. Yeah, so arithmetic. But yeah, yes, I agree with you. You know what would be a better way to handle healthcare? Let's do Medicare for all. That would be a great way to handle it so that we could, I mean, you'd still be giving some money to the people because the Medicare for all still pays the private interest and the private parties like the doctors and the hospitals, etc. But everybody gets even if you allow people to opt in to Medicare for all instead of like the private healthcare plans, even insurance plans, that'd be great too. I would be more than happy to spend $500 more a month in taxes to lose my $1,000 a month premium. But, big fuck you to Chris Matthews and everybody else who decided that they were going to, make Elizabeth Warren look stupid for proposing a plan that would be better off for the majority of Americans. But hey, it is what it is. Medicare for all would cause things like what happened to Big Hook today to happen. I must have missed what happened to Big Hook today. Big Hook, what happened today? Were you denied something? I mean, I had Medicaid, and for the time that I was on Medicaid, from the end of 2020 till they finally kicked me off in end of 2024, it was the best 3 full years of medicine that I've had. It was great. It was wonderful. I had no complaints whatsoever. Well, maybe once when they stopped covering the Trulicity. But I had one complaint in 4 years until I got kicked off. And then I had to pay $800 a month with my health insurance plan at work. And then that got bumped up to $1,000 a month with that plan. So, anyway. Enjoy your Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Thank you for joining us as you've joined us, Suzanne. I mean, you could DVR it. Do you have a DVR? How do you watch the show? You could record it. Then you could skip the commercials, right? But again, Star Trek Deep Space Nine is a very good show, and I love it. I love all sorts of Star Trek, etc. So, Surrender Monkey basically stealing my thunder. Yes, Deep Space Nine could also be streamed on Paramount. So if you have Paramount, you could watch every episode. You don't have to actually worry about it. But if you don't have Paramount, then, as Donald Trump says,
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Let us go ahead, and we don't need spammers in the chat. Spammers in the chat. Let's ban the spammers in the chat. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Let's see. Steve, I'm sure he thinks he's suing our government, but Beeb money is from most of us here. It's felt personal this time. Yeah, he's not only suing your government or whatever, but he's suing our government too. Because he wants us to also pay, to settle a debt with him. Of course, with us, it's maybe $1 per adult instead of the 30-something pounds or whatever that you might. So, but yeah, a Big Hook did hurt his foot last week. So I'm pretty sure he got a parking ticket because he waited forever to see an orthopedic doctor, which he probably had to wait 6 months. No, he didn't have to wait 6 months on getting an orthopedic doctor. He hurt his foot last week. He had a doctor's appointment with the orthopedic doctor today. So yeah, you're wrong about that part at least. But I don't know about the parking ticket. But parking tickets are because meter maids are freaking horrible people. So Aaron's, I'm not on Twitch. I forgive you, Aaron. You're okay. I could click that thing, but if you want to be on Twitch, it's also fine too. I'm not going to complain about it, but I would never complain about my awesome mod squatters because they're my awesome mod squatters. Chad, I'll be damned. That's a much faster turnaround than I thought it would be, to be fair. But, a lot of people have those misconceptions about how the Canadian healthcare system works. But,
It It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. But yeah, I mean, when I was on Medicaid, I had no problem seeing anybody in any sort of, nothing was slow, everything was normal. It's just I paid less money than I would have with my current private insurance. I see no difference between what got covered on Medicaid and what got covered as part of a private health insurance plan, with maybe the exception of the fact that I finally got back on Trulicity instead of being, or I got on Zepbound when before I was on Trulicity or whatever. Susie Jones, I have a degree from FU and I am mad AF. A lot of people are mad AF, right? See, I'll not sleep for ages after ranting so late. Yes. Sleep, although I didn't sleep because for some reason my left knee, which is the one that was replaced, has been giving me fits and shits for the last 2 days, and I've not been sleeping well with it, so it sucks. But again, as another reminder, I'm giving several reminders before I get to this topic, which is not the next topic, but it's a topic that will be coming up. After I discuss this next topic, I will be talking about the case in Oklahoma, the Jesse Butler case, and it could be very triggering to people who have dealt with sexual assault, sexual abuse, rape, etc. Apparently, I can't even say rape in the show title on Twitch. I had to put grape in order for it to be okay. That's one of the things that pisses me off about this country, and I'm getting that a little bit too. Not this country, but these companies, is that you can't have frank and honest conversations about issues such as sexual assault and rape without having to use code words on like TikTok or Twitch, having to say grape and having to only say essay or whatever, instead of being able to talk about the real things in frank and honest ways. And that's just another thing that contributes to rape culture. But before we talk about that, we're going to talk about Kim Davis, because Kim Davis went before tried to go before the Supreme Court. She tried to get herself, to not have to pay the fines that she paid because she refused to do her damn job and follow the law and give, people, the weddings that they're allowed to have because of Obergefell v. Hodges. So she thought that she could get around it by going to the Supreme Court and trying to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, and as such, she wouldn't have to pay the money for denying them whatever based on her, firmly, sincerely held religious beliefs. Well, you don't get to put your firmly, sincerely held religious beliefs over everybody else when you're a government employee and have to do your damn job. If I was practicing and as a Jewish person, and if I was an EMS and I had to do my job to go save somebody, I would have to go do my job and save somebody. But at least with my religion, if you have to go save a life, that's allowed. You can break whatever law you want to break to save a life, unless it's murdering somebody else in the process. Doesn't mean you can't defend somebody by killing somebody. It means you can't murder somebody to save a life. Like if somebody had a gun to my head and said, murder this person or I'll shoot you, I couldn't. That could not be something that you could do. But if somebody held a gun to my head and said, murder this person, I'll kill you, and I killed that person instead, the one who was threatening to kill me, then that would absolutely be fine. That would be allowable. That's not murder. That's just illegal killing. So you can eat if it'll save a life, you can eat a ham and cheese sandwich on Yom Kippur. So sincerely held religious beliefs are full of shit when it comes to government. Your sincerely held religious belief should not be used to be able to deny people the rights that they have as citizens of these United States, or even as residents in this country of these United States. So there you go, Kim Davis. She shot her shot, and she needed 4 Supreme Court justices. She needed 4 of them, and she couldn't get 4, which actually is what surprised me the most. You would need 4 to agree to the case. I'm pretty sure I know who 2 are. I know who 3 absolutely are not. Maybe 4. I know that the 4 may very well have been the 3 liberals, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor. And then it's probably Chief Justice Roberts was probably the 4 of the 6 who said no. Then I'm sure you had Alito, And I'm sure you had Thomas, who were probably like, yep, we'll take it. You know it was Thomas. And I'm sure Alito was right along following on that train. My guess would have to be it would probably have been Kavanaugh, would have been third, with Barrett and Gorsuch being the other two, being shockingly reasonable. But I could be wrong, and because these all happen behind closed doors, you don't know unless they decide to let us know. But the reason I think that, while we can breathe a short-term collective sigh of relief when it comes to whether or not Obergefell will be overturned today or anytime soon, you still have the thing going on in Texas, where the Texas Supreme Court said that judges in the state of Texas can absolutely use their sincerely held religious beliefs to not have to perform marriages for people who they're against, that their marriages are against their beliefs, like gay people. LGBTQA folks could be denied marriage by the Supreme Court, by the Supreme Court in Texas, at least in the state of Texas. And then what happens? Or if you are somebody who wants to be married and you're in a same-sex relationship and you live in Texas, are you going to challenge that? Because if you challenge that, then guess what? That goes up the level, that goes up to the Supreme Court, that gives the Supreme Court the opportunity to say, okay, we're going to rethink Obergefell now. So maybe that's what the Texas Supreme Court was thinking, is that if they, can just say this, and if nobody risks challenging it, then by default, Obergefell v. Hodges is no longer the law of the land in Texas anymore, if the judges can deny people the ability to get married simply because of that. So then if you're challenging it, you have to question, do you challenge it and risk overturning gay marriage for everybody? Or do you just go get married in another state? Or do you find another way to get married? Whatever. But if you're in a deep, deep red part of Texas and can't make it to one of the bluer areas where you might be able to find a judge who will be happy to, give you your marriage license, issue the license, perform the ceremony, etc., then fine. But if you're not that, then either you're screwed and you can't get married, so you're denied equal protection under the law, which is unconstitutional, or you're forced to then challenge it, which then puts everybody's rights who might be in a same-sex marriage at risk as well. Damned if you do, damned if you don't, and I'm sure the people in Texas know absolutely this, and that's why they're taking the steps that you're taking. So let's see. Steve, he claims to be independent. I told him he thinks both sides are the same. It's just a closet Republican who is too embarrassed to admit he's a Republican. Kind of reminds me of someone else I know. Let's see. They are waiting for a better case, don't you think? I mean, that's what I just said. They are potentially waiting for the Texas case or whatever. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe Coney Barrett and Gorsuch and Roberts are like, look, this is settled law. We're not going to deal with this anymore. And if that's the case, good. But I'm not holding my breath either. But even if they don't want to take the case, then what are they going to do? Even if they decide to not take the case of people coming from Texas, then that still leaves Texas as Obergefell free, which means there now will be only 49 states where your marriage rights are fully protected, and then Texas where your marriage rights are not fully protected. And it doesn't necessarily have to affect gay marriage. Like, for example, if somebody is a Catholic judge who sees somebody who is a Catholic and a Jewish person, like my wife and myself, wanting to get married, perhaps they would be able to deny that one too. And then you would try and that might be the best case to try and overturn the Texas Supreme Court ruling, because then you would be dealing with a non-Obergefell case, which may very well be how people might want to challenge this Texas Supreme Court ruling. But, it is what it is. Oh, I'm sorry. I took your line, Donald. Don't sue me for $1 billion.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Hey, Kevin, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Let's see. Child rent-free in Jolie's head. The election denier mentioned me in another room today. You must dream about me too. I can dream about you if I can't hold you tonight. Whoa, welcome to Liberal Dan Karaoke. No, just kidding. And again, in a few more minutes, we will be discussing the Oklahoma case. We actually have another thing I do want to talk about. One more thing to talk about before we discuss the case from Oklahoma with the individual who is 18 years old who was accused of and pleaded no contest to charges pertaining to the rape and or sexual assault of two underage women. And he got away pretty much scot-free, at least at the moment. We'll be talking about that in a little bit. We're not going to go into full details yet, but there's a warning everybody that after this topic, which I forgot to search for before the show, let's see, type that out real quick. This is not. Well, this actually happened three weeks ago. ICE agent who shot women in Chicago drove Border Patrol vehicle back to Maine. An unnamed ICE agent who shot and injured a woman in Chicago is now back in Maine after driving the Border Patrol vehicle he was in 1,100 miles. The vehicle was allegedly rammed by the woman prior to the shooting. Now a federal judge has demanded federal prosecutors bring the ICE agent back to Chicago as soon as possible. Chicago defense attorney representing the woman who was shot 5 times by the ICE agent and another man charged in the case say he has concerns about potential evidence mishandling. He is asking not only that the ICE agent be returned to Chicago, but the vehicle as well. Marimar Martinez, the woman shot and wounded, and Anthony Ruiz both face charges of using a dangerous and deadly weapon to forcibly arrest, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Lawyer for U.S. citizen, this is from 6 days ago, say shooting was not in self-defense. Lawyers representing a U.S. citizen who was shot by an immigration agent last week in Ontario, California, are pushing back on claims that the government has said the officer was acting in self-defense. This might actually be a different case or whatever. I'm more talking about the one that fled to Maine. Attorney Christopher Parenti, who is representing Martinez Ruiz, say body cam footage shows that agents ramming Martinez contradicting the ICE version of the events. When ICE agents got out of the vehicle, prosecutors say Martinez drove her car towards the ICE agent, who was driving as she left the scene, prompting the agent to fire 5 shots. Parente says body cam footage shows the ICE agent aiming his assault rifle and shouting, "Do something, B-word," moments before opening fire. Parente is demanding all text and communications from the ICE agent who fired be preserved, that any repairs, inspections, or even car washes performed by the SUV be documented, and that all ICE and Homeland Security communications, in this case including emails, texts, and notes, and internal documents, be retained. Both suspects have pled not guilty. If convicted, they face 20 years in prison. It's unclear where the ICE agent traveled to in Maine. CBS 13 asked the regional ICE spokesman today, where is the Border Patrol agent involved in a shooting? We have yet to receive a response. So the body cam evidence shows that what ICE said about the case was not the case. And this is why we say that all cops are bastards, because not only will they act badly, they will act badly in defense of other people who are acting badly within their departments. This wasn't an ICE case, but again, take the Laquan McDonald case, who was shot by a police officer multiple times outside of a Burger King. And the first thing that the police officers did in that case was go try and snag up all of the video camera footage from the stores around the area, not to protect them as evidence, but to protect their fellow blue line member, because the thin blue line is thick indeed. So when you have ICE acting like an immoral, criminal organization who doesn't give a crap about Supreme Court rulings, doesn't give a crap about actually enforcing the actual law against actual people who they're supposed to be enforcing it against, and who will pick up anybody, regardless of their citizenship status, regardless of their being here legally or not, then yes, we're going to have people who are going to want to say that we need to stop ICE wherever and whenever possible. ICE is lawless and needs to be disbanded. Now, we can all have our disagreements on whether or not, or agreements or disagreements on whether or not the police should be defunded, but ICE should at least be disbanded and replaced with at least another department with brand new leadership, a brand new culture, who are going to, do what they're supposed to do, going after the so-called worst of the worst, as Donald Trump claimed that they were going to do. But no, now they're just going after the low-hanging fruit. Now they're going after the people who have committed no crimes. They're going after people who are documented workers who are here legally under our immigration laws, under our work laws, etc. And they're shooting people and claiming that what happened in the shooting is not really what, happened during the shooting. Simple as that. Now, Chad, Jolie doesn't get power over blocking you. Jolie has whatever power she has as the mod, because I believe that Jolie and Aaron are the two best mods on the planet, and I trust their judgment. And if you misbehave in my chat, they're going to mute you, they're going to remove your comments, they're going to take action against you. And I've seen them take action and mute and delete comments of people who are left-leaning as well, because they don't care about what your political leanings are, they just care that you behave in the chat properly. So let's see. I mean, I'm all about getting receipts when I'm having discussions on Facebook or whatever, just in case somebody does block me, but to kind of prove my point. But still, whatever. As Trump says, always.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Let's see. Let's go ahead and delete that. Let's go ahead and delete that. Let's go ahead and delete that. Hold on. Need to potentially let something out first. Y'all don't need to hear my burp. Anyway, there we go. I'm back. Let's see. Even though it's not real, I found artistic pictures that look like I'm giving it a dark tone, but it'll be a comedy. Nice. I do have to say something though. I do have to bring up something, because there was a video that came out where Donald Trump was at the Washington Commanders game, and he was reading something from a book, and it said, I, then state your name, do solemnly swear. And when I first saw the video, and people were saying that it was, that we're sharing it because he was getting booed. My first thought was he was reading something, and he was reading it and then it said state your name, and I thought he instead of saying Donald Trump, he said then state your name. So I thought he was just being an utter and complete moron. And I shared that on my Facebook page. I don't think on the Liberal Dan Radio one, but I shared it on my personal one. And then I learned more about the story, and I found out that no, he was actually leading others in a swearing-in ceremony. So he was the one leading the swearing-in ceremony. So he wasn't the one that made a stupid mistake. He was just reading what he was supposed to read, because the people who were doing the swearing-in were supposed to say their names. So, look, I will admit, when I say something incorrect or that's factually unsound, even if it's about Donald Trump, I will come forward and I'll say, look, mea culpa, I did wrong. I said something that was factually incorrect, and I am willing to say it out loud that I in fact did that on my personal Facebook page. Or if I did it on the show, I do it on the show as well. I have no problem admitting when I am wrong, because that's what I like to live my life with integrity. I like to live my life in a way that I would be an example for my kids. I want to be an example for other people as well, and to show that, hey, while I'm a political pundit, so to speak, while I'm somebody who will, who will think about things in political ways, that I still feel that it's important to be honorable, to be reasonable, and if you say something wrong, I think it's important to say, mea culpa, I said something wrong, I take it back, this is the correct way to frame it. Now, of course, it was still freaking hilarious that he's sitting there at a Washington Commanders game trying to swear these people in, and they're all booing his ass because, he's an asshole. And look, it's plausible that he would have read that and not actually, understood that if he said, I, state your name, say I, Donald Trump. It's plausible, that could have been the reason why. And that's why I jumped to it, because there's many, many other ways that Donald Trump has absolutely proven himself to be an absolutely fucking idiot. But in this particular case, it's not one of those examples. So I will make sure to say that out loud, because, again, I want this to be a place where people can come and people can trust what I'm going to say, and trust that if I make a mistake, that I'm going to correct myself at some time in the future. So, see, Kevin, we don't do fat shaming here either. Because, as I've said in my very special episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right, when I talk about living life as an obese person, which is about like maybe 4 years now, 3 or 4 years ago is when I did that show, about 2.5 full-on hours of me talking about my life living as an obese person. One of the things I discuss is the fact that there are many people who are obese, and the reason that they're obese, or at least there's a strong correlation between their obesity and the abuse they received as kids, be it sexual, be it physical, be it emotional, etc. A lot of times people who are children who don't have access to alcohol, who don't have access to, drugs or anything like that, they will instead medicate themselves with sugar, with soda, with soft drinks, with candy, with chips, with many other things. They will medicate that way, and as such, they will gain weight. So that's why it's important to not mock people for being obese, simply because even if they're shitty people, because the people who are obese, who have dealt with that stuff, are people, who are maybe obese, and it's not their fault. So anyway. Victor Harshman, I get too emotionally opinionated quite often. I get so emotional, baby, every time I think of you. Anyway, sorry. I am no Whitney for many reasons. So, anyway. Oh, Jolie, you've been gone. You take your phone calls that you need. No need to apologize. Chad, Jolie doesn't have to ask me. Let's just make that clear. Jolie does not have to ask me if she is going to ban somebody. Now, I may ban people. I retain full right to ban anybody that I want because it's my channel. But Aaron and Jolie have carte blanche to ban anybody that they want to. But they're not only going to ban people if they act out of control, if they act in a manner that's, unbecoming for a member of the liberal Danimal audience. So keep that in mind when talking about Jolie, because I trust Jolie and I trust Aaron to make good decisions, and I believe that they make good decisions. And if there's ever a problem that I have with one of them, it will be done privately and not be discussed out in the air. But as of right now, I have no complaints about what they've done, and as of right now, Jolie could have banned you whenever she wanted to. You're not banned yet. So maybe think a little bit, maybe start thinking a little bit higher of Jolie at least, right? I mean, I do. There's a simple answer. I don't mean to speak for Jolie, but my opinion of why Jolie hasn't banned you yet, Chad, is because you haven't done a bannable offense in this chat. Simple as that. If you do something bannable, then she'll ban you. But if you haven't done a bannable offense, and whining about why she treats you so unfairly, I mean, you sound a little Trumpian. Oh, I get treated so unfairly. I'm so unfairly treated by Jolie. She's so unfair to me. But she hasn't banned you. And I think the only time you've ever been moderated is if you said something shitty. So there you go. That's not how my mods roll, though, Chad. They're not going to sit here and not talk shit about you or not comment about the things that you say. They're not going to sit here and do that or ban you. They're going to leave you to have the opportunity to either put your own foot in your mouth, or they'll either say, well, if you don't want people talking shit about you, then you could either block, or you could go away, or whatever. And that's what they would probably say. Again, I'm not speaking for Jolie, but if I was a mod in a channel, that's how I would handle it, at least. I'm not going to ban somebody just because I have the power to do so. I'm going to ban somebody because they do something bannable. You haven't done anything bannable yet. You might do things that annoy people, but that doesn't mean it's bannable. So there you go. And I know, generally speaking, from a 30,000 point view, Chad, I can understand having unresolved issues. I can understand that, but sometimes you just got to just take a deep breath and let it go. Bonnie, Chad causes chaos wherever he goes. I saw him at the farmer's market fighting about apples. I mean, that's funny, but if that's true, that would be amazing. Anyway. Great liberal Danimals and best moderators. Yep. Thank you, Orville B. I love my liberal Danimals. So, we did prison what? I don't know what that means. Is that a typo? I'm usually good at speaking typonese, but I don't know. Anyway. So, I've given enough warnings, I think. I've given enough, basically telling people that at some point during this program, and I think it's going to be the next subject, unless I remember another one that I wanted to talk about, because I think it's been the next subject, 2 subjects away now. Let's see, we talked about the lose 135 billion pounds. We talked about food stamps and the memo. We talked about the tariff dividends. We talked about the ICE agent shooting and fleeing. We talked about Kim Davis. So yeah, that's the last thing that I have planned to talk about in this show. It's Trucker John again, Trucker John. Good to see you, Trucker John. Again. I don't know if you've been lingering or whatever. Linger longer! If you're a Greaseman fan, you might understand what that means. Waddle doodle. Anyway, used to listen to the Greaseman way back in the day, and you would do waddle doodle and sing other songs in crazy little bits and be a lawman. I even called into the Greaseman show one time, like before my bar mitzvah, and he did a celebration, and I wish we would have recorded it because it would have been fucking awesome. But anyway, and I actually reached out to the Greaseman a while back. It's like, do you happen to have old recordings? He's like, I don't think we have them that go all the way that back. I'm like, God damn it, we made a mistake. I knew somebody knew who the Greaseman was, and I believed it was Jeff, but I wasn't going to be sure. But the Greaseman had some issues with the racism. Yeah. So, I think when I used to listen to Opie and Anthony, who they are problematic as well, especially Anthony Cumia. Holy shit, Anthony Cumia is a problematic son of a bitch. If you've heard about his racist rants, and then I haven't even bothered to watch his own little show or whatever show. I'm sure his show's bigger than mine, but his own personal show that he does, I'm like, I don't need to listen to that. I can listen to other conservative talk shows to be able to get my show prep done without having to listen to this racist asshat. But there was apparently one time when there was, because apparently Greaseman also got fired for saying something racist. I think he dropped the N-bomb on air, and that's one of the reasons why he got fired. And apparently there was and Anthony Cumia, for as shitty as he was, did very good imitations. And I used to think that the Anthony Cumia character on the show wasn't the real Anthony Cumia, that he was just playing a bit. But no, it wasn't a character, not one bit. But apparently somebody was working at some plaque factory, and they were making a plaque in honor of James Earl Jones. But instead of, and the plaque was supposed to say, thanks for keeping the dream alive, James Earl Jones. But instead, the plaque said, thanks for keeping the dream alive, James Earl Ray. And then that's when Anthony Cumia comes and is like, well, someone was working at the plaque factory. Waddle doodle, Greaseman, DC 101. But, so, and the reason I remember that is because that whole bit was fucking hysterical. But, yeah, Anthony Cumia has no place to criticize anybody else for being racist and or dropping the N-bomb, because I'm sure he's done so much more of the times than Greaseman did. Anyway, so I think I do a pretty good imitation of the Greaseman, though nowadays that imitation might be lost on many people who probably have no idea what I'm fucking talking about. But the fact that somebody would work at a plaque factory and make that mistake, although I have a bigger time believing that that was a mistake versus the Executive Order 14188. I don't believe that was a mistake at all. I don't think that was happenstance. I think that was purposely done by at least one person. So, anywho. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, shall we? Let's talk about the individual known as, what's his face? I want to keep protesting it. Jesse Butler. Jesse Butler is the individual. He was Oklahoma 18-year-old now, but 17-year-old when the assaults happened. He was convicted on several, meaning like 10 or 11 rape-related charges. I've heard different versions of the story about how the legal process went. I heard several different explanations as to how the legal process. Some people have stated that he initially pled guilty to the crimes, and then after some sort of arrangement between the prosecutor and the defense attorney and the judge, the judge's name is Susan Worthington, that some deal flipped the script, and instead of trying him as an 18-year-old adult or a 17-year-old who could be charged as an adult, which is legal and something that's available to the people who are in the prosecution, who are representing the state. They absolutely could charge him as an adult, and he was facing over 7 decades of prison for the crimes that he committed. But instead, his dad used to run the OSU football program. Supposedly, the judge in question, Judge Susan Worthington, at least according to some of the sources that I've seen, she may very well have connections to the OSU program as well. They decided to try him under Oklahoma's Youthful Offender Act. And as somebody charged under Oklahoma's Youthful Offender Act, which his charges include domestic assault, battery by strangulation, rape by instrumentation, and violating a protection order. These charges come from 2 different victims. He pled no contest, and what was, again, originally a 78-year sentence was changed after he was given youthful offender status. Now he will not face any jail time as long as he meets the requirements such as community service and attending counseling. Community service and counseling for these crimes. Again, I'm telling you right now that I'm not going to go into full detail, I'm not going to save everything, but one of the victims, or maybe both of the victims, but I think both of the victims, he participated in some strangulation with. One of the victims, it was said that after they had the, medical attention done on her throat, that she may very well have been less than a minute away from actually dying from what he was doing to her. And according to court documents, when he did this to her, this is my understanding of my recollection of the cases. If I'm wrong, this is just me stating an opinion of the case and me stating what I've heard from other places. But from what I've heard, that he did the strangulation and stopped, but he wanted it on camera, so he got his cell phone and did it again. Are you freaking kidding me? This person is a monster. I don't care if he was 17 years old when it happened. This person is a monster. And he pled no contest, which means he agrees that the things happened. These acts happened. He is guilty of those crimes. It is a factual statement to say that he is guilty of those crimes, of the actions that he did, that he was accused of doing, and he pled no contest, so therefore there are guilty verdicts in those crimes, and he's scheduled to be back in court on December 8th. But here you have a white male, privileged, connected to OSU football, who is now going to get a slap on the wrist for violating 2 young women. The only thing that I could say that potentially could cause him to have this youthful offender status go away. The only thing is that if he goes to college, and it's very important that his name gets spread far and wide, especially at whatever college he goes to, because he's not going to have to register as a sex offender under this. If he goes through and makes it to the age of 19, not doing any other harm to anybody else, he is going to not have to register as a sex offender. But that doesn't stop anybody else from pointing out the fact that this person pled no contest to 11 crimes relating to the sexual assault and abuse and rape of 2 separate young women. But if he does it again, if he goes off to college and or doesn't follow the terms of his youthful offender probation and community service, then he could very well lose that youthful offender protection, be found guilty fully, or he already is guilty, but then be punished fully and have his full punishment be placed back on him. The unfortunate problem with this is this requires him to victimize somebody else. And if he does victimize somebody else, then he's going to go to prison for a long, long time. But people like this, people who take it upon themselves to force themselves on others, people who take it upon themselves to want to record their sex crimes, these are not people who can control themselves. These are not people who will be like, oh, well, I've learned the error of my ways, and my counseling has taught me to be a better person. No, this person will offend again. Because the people who are most likely to commit rapes are people who've already committed rapes. Simple as that. But let me read from the law. Let me read from Westlaw about the legislative intent of this law, the Youthful Offender Law. It is the purpose of the Youthful Offender Act to better ensure the public safety by holding youths accountable for the commission of serious crimes while affording courts methods of rehabilitation for those youths the court determined at their discretion may be amenable to such methods. Who the hell does this judge think she is? Again, the judge's name is Judge Susan Worthington. Who the hell does Judge Susan Worthington think she is? By believing that this individual is amenable to the methods that could allow this person to be rehabilitated. Do anybody of y'all watching this video right now believe that he is somebody that could be rehabilitated? I don't think so. Not one bit. It is the intent of the legislature to fully utilize Youthful Offender Act as a means to protect the public while rehabilitating and holding youth accountable for serious crimes. The public isn't going to be protected here. There will be more victims. I predict that there will be more victims, and I don't believe that that's a prediction. That's a horrible prediction to make. I don't think I'm unfounded in thinking that somebody who wanted to record himself choking somebody to near death, I don't believe that person is going to somehow magically avail himself to be rehabilitated. That person is just going to find more ways to do horrible things to horrible people. To good people, I'm sorry. He's going to do horrible things to good people. More people will be victimized. And all it takes is one more person to be victimized for this youthful offender status to go away again. But why should anybody else be put at risk? Why should anybody else be put at risk just because you want to give this young lad, this young convicted rapist, an opportunity to be rehabilitated? I don't even think that one example, if there was only one victim, I still don't think that it should qualify for this Youthful Offender Act, especially for the heinous things that was done. And not only should he be punished, his mom should be punished too. Now you might say, well, Dan, why should a parent be punished for the crimes of their child? Because his mother, start again. Because her mother, his mother, whatever. Jesse Butler's mother should absolutely be put in prison. and locked up. Why? Because he had one of the victims in his room. His mother heard her screaming about what was going on. I think she even heard her say stop or no. And instead of opening the door to see what the hell was going on, she goes, is everything okay in there? He says yes, and she walks away. A literal crime was happening in her house, and she just let it happen when she had plenty of reasons to open that door. Now, when I was a 17-year-old in high school, I would never be able to have the door closed and someone who I was seeing on the other side. Because apparently at least one of them was somebody who he was seeing for a bit. It wasn't just a one-off thing, but that would have never happened in my house. I could have never had the door closed. But if my mom ever heard me in a room with somebody and heard somebody screaming no, she wouldn't be like, is everything okay in there? And I say, yeah, everything's fine, Ma. And then she'd be like, okay, well, have a fun time. Absolutely not. She would bust in, and if she found me doing something inappropriate, she'd have cracked my skull and defended the victim. This woman defended the rapist, enabled the rape to continue under her roof. And if you enable rape to happen under your roof, guess what? You should be found guilty of a crime as well. And if the laws in Oklahoma do not allow for such a thing to happen, they should be changed to allow such a thing to happen. Because she aided and abetted a serial rapist. And the only hope for multiple future victims, again, is that when he violates the terms of this, hopefully he only violates the terms of this by not going to community service and by not going to the required counseling and by violating other terms, and hopefully he doesn't do anything before that time where he harms an actual individual innocent person. But once he harms one more, he'll be done. And he'll then have to go serve his prison sentence. Hopefully. But this shouldn't be a case. Because again, this is at the discretion of the judge. The judge had the discretion to determine whether or not the accused, the person who pled no contest, who is guilty of these crimes, she had the discretion to determine if this person was someone who could be rehabilitated or not. And in her brain was like, oh yeah, this person can be rehabilitated. Dumbass. You're a dumbass, and if anybody else is harmed by this rapist, then you should be held accountable too. Not only should the mom be held accountable for it, you should be held to account, because you are just as guilty as the mom for aiding and abetting a serial fucking rapist. And I'm sorry if that's been triggering anybody, but this case has pissed me the fuck off. And not enough people are talking about it. So now add one more voice to the chorus of people who are talking about it, because I will not sit here and just be like, oh, boys being boys. No, F him, rapists being rapists, lock his ass up. This is a miscarriage of justice. This does not protect the community. This puts more people at risk. Shame on all of them. Shame on him, shame on the mom, shame on the judge, shame on the prosecutor, shame on everybody involved in this case that has enabled this rapist to basically go free. Demonox is in the chat. I didn't see Demonox. But I was also kind of staring at the camera first. But good to see you, Demonox. Glad you joined us for the show. The first Liberal Dan Radio patron. Thank you so much for that. Trucker John says, let's give him something to talk about. Let's give him something to talk about. Let's see. Kimchi. My hatred for the Greaseman is only eclipsed by my hatred of Stern. Fair enough. I stopped watching Stern a while back. My mom still watched Stern for a while. I stopped watching Stern. Shockingly enough, Stern got better, or he seemed to mature after a long time, but that's after a long time of sophomoric, childish, and otherwise crappy behavior on his part. There is a 2-part, I think, show on Vice, which is like the something about the 90s or whatever, and there's a discussion of shock jocks, and you can see all of the horrible things that both Stern did, that Anthony Cumia and Opie did. I don't know why I said Opie. Everybody says Opie or whatever. Karen Ames, yes, Daddy has money. Daddy was used to be the head of football at OSU. So yes, Daddy has money. Daddy has privilege. Daddy has connections. Yeah, Chad, it's all because his dad is an Oklahoma coach that is friends with the judge. Yep. Steve, another Rittenhouse. Yeah. Kimchi goes, 4 of you did not like. It's possible even that more than 4 did not like. Simply because of the fact that just because there are 24 active, and well, this says 20 active, this says 24 active, 38 like, or 26 concurrent and 38 like, so I don't know. Who knows at this point? But yes, Victor, absolutely, it's effing sick. I'll get to that in a second. Zalisville, is that how you pronounce your name? Zalisville? I'll get to that question in a second, but let's keep on going. Yes, evil, disgusting, OMG. It's all about who you know, different rules for which people. Exactly. Chad goes, the dude and the judge should both be put under the jail. Absolutely. Sounds more like these God-fearing Republicans fear prison more than God. Yeah, pretty much. His dad should get 10 years for helping set it up. And if his dad was involved with the whole thing, and probably was, with the connections to the judge or whatever. I wasn't exactly sure what the connections were between the judge and the dad, but if that's the connection, then yeah, he should also be involved too. He should also be held responsible. Demonox plays only in for a half second before I run to work. This is the problem with Vote Blue no matter who. They got exactly what you want from us. See you next election. Yep, exactly. I'm going to be less and less likely to say vote blue no matter who, and I'm going to say vote other parties, like maybe vote green in some areas instead of blue. As long, again, problem is you don't want to have red get elected because you're not voting blue. That's the problem. So, but we need to replace the idiots that are blue and the cowards that are blue with the people who will actually stand up to the Republican bullying. Kimchi, what an Orwellian description. What was? Let's see, this was an obvious move that was orchestrated within the confines of statewide power. If you're talking about the rape case, clearly. Let's see. I'm a Christian, please forgive me, Judge. Defense. Look, that's the thing. If somebody wants to find Jesus in prison, fine. Go find Jesus in prison. Like, where's Waldo? But just with Jesus instead of Waldo. Go find Jesus in prison. And then let it be between you and Jesus after the fact. Don't let it affect the secular punishments that are taking place by our government that should be taking place. But unfortunately, we have a system that maintains and perpetuates a rape culture. And look, I used to deny that we lived in a rape culture because I didn't understand what the word really meant, and I didn't really want to see it. But once I saw it, I was like, oh, yep, you're right. And then I'm fully on board with calling everything that is involved with this case, as well as a lot of other things that perpetuate rape culture, a rape culture. What is a rape culture? Well, think of what a culture is. The one way I've convinced other people to talk about rape culture and to be able to understand that there is a rape culture is this. I've basically said, look, what is a culture? It is something where something thrives. So let's say you get a strep culture. So if you swab your throat and you rub it on the strep culture, and if you had strep in your throat, that strep culture will allow strep to grow, so therefore you'll see whether or not you have strep or not. Rape culture is the same thing. If you have rape going on and rape thrives in this culture that we have in our country, then we live in a rape culture. If rape is shut down and is something that is not only shunned publicly, but reduced and punished harshly so that people don't want to commit the crime. But now more people are going to see this case and like, oh, I can just say that I'm a youthful offender and I can get away with doing horrible things to horrible people. That's rape culture. Telling somebody that they can do all of these horrible sadistic crap to young victims and then say, oh, community service is fine and some counseling, that'll help you. That'll keep the community safe. No, that won't. F you. Yes, exactly, Kimchi. Mommy knew, and Mommy did nothing to stop it. Blah. I scrolled too far. There we go. Now we're back. Now I'm back to where I wanted to be. Yeah, she knew. She allowed the mother of the monster is worse. Let's see. What did Jeff say? Did I miss something what Jeff said? I don't know. Jeff said something that was TMI, but I think I missed what Jeff said that was TMI. So I don't know. Sometimes things just scroll on beyond me and I just can't seem to find it. Anyway. Starting to monkey, my mom chewed me out for doing things that were above board and legal at 21. I don't think I was her favorite son. I was my mom's favorite son. I was my mom's only son. So by default, I'm the favorite and the least favorite. So let's see. We'll give an asshole money and power, they'll shit all over people. Well, that's exactly what's happening with Donald Trump too, right? I mean, guess what do you expect? You elected a multiple time or multiple offender, somebody who has multiple credible accusations of sexual abuse, sexual assault, rape against him. He was found civilly liable of sexual abuse, and now he's elected president. So what example does that send to our kids, where you can literally be found civilly liable for sexually abusing somebody and still be elected president of these United States? You know, that lets these people know even more that, oh, I'm going to get away with my shit too. Even if there are some people who don't get away with it, there are more people who now believe that they will get away with it. And there are people who will understand, who will possibly be victims, who will be like, well, these people are going to get away with it, so now I have to live with more fear. I have to do things to help prevent my rapes instead of society doing things to help prevent them from being raped in the first place. That's rape culture. When people who could potentially be victims have to sit there and think about, oh, I'm going to hold my keys in my fingers like this, with my key sticking out between my middle fingers, so just in case somebody tries to assault me, I can give them a hit with that and harm them, and hopefully harm them enough so I can get away. Have to tell them, oh, I have to make decisions as to where I can walk and when I can walk and what I can do and what I wear and this and that or the other. I can't even go to somebody's house with their mother in the house under the hopes that maybe they would act like a civilized person with their parents there, because they don't. When you have to take steps, especially as a woman, to navigate hoops to try and prevent your rape, instead of doing things instead of us doing things as a society to prevent rape in general, that is rape culture. Period. End of story. Let's see. Candidates matter. I vote blue and red in every election, especially local. I mean, fine, but still voted for Trump. And Trump was somebody who sexually abused somebody. Krista, marital rape is real, absolutely. And marital rape used to be legal. Used to not be legal it used to not be a lawful act to punish somebody for raping their spouse. How shitty is that? When did that change? Not soon enough, that's for damn sure. And yes, hello, Krista. Thank you, and thank you for pointing that out. There are all sorts of ways in this society that we make excuses for rape. Boys being boys. Oh, they were married. Oh, she was asking for it. Oh, what she was wearing. Oh, this. Oh, that. Instead of saying, oh, let's let the person who makes an accusation of rape come forward, listen to them, and if for some reason their story falls apart, then fine. You don't have to believe everybody. And in some cases, the cases do fall apart. The stories do fall apart. But we live in a society that automatically asks them, oh, did you enjoy yourself? Did you climax during the process? We have congressmen, senators who say, just lay back and take it, lay back and enjoy it, because nature has a way of stopping it from happening. We're never going to get that one either, right? So, yeah. The fact that this is happening in our society and continues to happen in society, and people, especially young, white, privileged men, are able to get away with horrific acts, does not give me any confidence that we're going to deal with ending the rape culture anytime soon. Chad, some people are allowed to retain able to retain large amounts of information. Well, that's why everybody listens to me, right? At least that's what Big Hook says. Big Hook says that I have an eidetic memory. So therefore, that's one of the reasons why he enjoys the show, because I can bring up random stuff. Karen, always the woman's fault. That's again, yeah. That's the gist I was trying to say, is that we often blame the victim. We often blame the women who often are victims. And look, there are men who are victims too. And you know, it's also hard for men to come forward as victims because men are afraid to come forward because they're afraid of appearing weak. They're afraid of appearing as if they were vulnerable. And that's part of also toxic masculinity, where telling men that they're not allowed to come forward or they're not able to come forward because people are going to think terrible things of them. I was told when I was falsely accused when I was a kid, and I have talked about that on the show previously. And when I told somebody about the false accusation that I dealt with, the person told me to never talk about it because people are going to think bad things about me. But I'm the victim. I shouldn't not have to advocate for myself. The problem is that too many people who bring up false accusations, like I will spend the vast majority of this conversation talking about the real victims of rape. I will spend this vast amount of time talking about, I will spend most of my time when I discuss rape talking about actual cases of actual rapes taking place and how they're horrible, like this particular case, and, you know, ranting about how terrible our society is. Unfortunately, there are people who focus in solely on false accusations of rape and want to make it this huge problem when there's no evidence to say that it's a huge problem whatsoever. It's a problem when it happens, but usually it doesn't happen because there's no benefit for doing it. Because half the time society doesn't believe women anyway when they come forward. So, Chad Bosick, you have impeccable memory, Dan. Oh my. I see what you did there.
Oh my.
Yeah, women have shouldered the blame since Eve. Pretty much. At least to Christianity, it's the original sin. I mean, with us, it's a little different, but with the Jewish folks. Oh, Damon, you're the one that got the gifted membership. I think that might very well have been Chad who gifted you that membership. So there you go. Thank Chad. Chad can be like, what else can I say except you're welcome. You're welcome. Anyway, but good to see you, Damon. Thank you for joining. Even if it's a little late or whatever. But yeah, but again, back to the point of the false accusations, just, there are terrible people out there. I think like Paul Elam is one of the horrible people who tries to make this big eruption over false accusations and have said terrible things like, we should do jury nullification and not find anybody guilty of rape until we solve this problem of false accusations. Look, if you're found guilty of falsely accusing anybody of a crime, then you should be punished for it, sure. But that doesn't mean we should treat it as if it's on the same level as rape. Not one bit. Yes, what happened to me when I was falsely accused, it harmed my psyche for a very long time. And it took me a very long time to deal with a lot of the underlying issues that I got and that I developed because of that false accusation. But I will never once say that it compares what any other victim of rape has gone through. And I've also been a victim. And me personally, that one hurt me the worst of the other things that happened to me. I feel as if that one hurt me the worst. Now, it's probably not true, especially because childhood victims of abuse, obesity. So clearly there has been a large effect there. But mentally, the worst thing that happened to me was that. That being said, that what happened to me is nothing compared to what happens to people who are raped. Like, I would never compare myself and what happened to me to this person's 2 victims, to Jesse Butler's 2 victims. And who's to say there's not more than 2? Is there evidence? There could be evidence of maybe there's a 3rd who didn't come forward. And that person is probably even less likely to come forward now, because why bother? Because you already have shown that the state is unwilling to punish rapists in Oklahoma when they're 17 and connected. Josh, I'm surprised we didn't hear the Oklahoma clip, but I'm dark context right now. Oh, I played it earlier. I played it well before I started actually getting into the meat of the details. But I did play it before, so, because I do have a dark mind or whatever, but I wasn't going to play it in the middle of it. When I warned about it, I did play it, so there you go. Let's see, Lilith didn't just want to be on the bottom of the time. What's wrong with that? Wait, what? I know we're talking about Lilith. I know Lilith with Adam and Eve or whatever. Or Lilith was first before Eve, right? If I have that right. Karen, physical scars heal, mental scars never do heal. Yeah, but the mental scars that I got from what happened to me pale in comparison. I would never try and claim that they're anywhere close to what happens to victims of, violent acts such as what Jesse Butler did to these two people and was found guilty of and pled no contest to. So that's my point with that. That, I try to never derail conversations of actual discussions of rape with false accusations. But the point I wanted to make there is that when people will say, oh, well, what about false accusations? No. Don't let the people who want to derail conversations of rape with false accusations, don't let them do it. Make sure that they know that there's no evidence to show that false accusations of rape take place at a higher rate than any false accusations of any other crime. And as somebody who has been falsely accused, again, I'm not going to sit here and try and tell other people that, oh, I'm the same. No, you're not. The sad thing is that if the people who worry about false accusations so much would take the time and understand the problem, they would realize that they would have a friend in people who are working to protect body autonomy, to go after rape, and to solve the problem of rape, because in reality, when you have a false accusation, like what happened with Duke Lacrosse, that then puts into the national psyche of, oh, well, if this person was lying, what if that person lies too? So if when you have public cases like the Duke rape case, it ends up having a chilling effect on other people coming forward, because then people are going to be like, oh, well, why I'm going to doubt this person now because of that person. Which is, I guess, one of the many ways that I would say that perhaps I was raised right, is that when I realized that I was not going to have charges filed against me when I was in high school, after being hugely relieved, the first thing that came to my head, again, was I need to make sure that if I hear that anybody else comes forward and says I was raped, that I need to not let my liar have her lies impact what I feel about that person. That person should be judged on their own merits. And I knew this at 17 years old. I knew this as a teen. That grown-ass adults can't understand this is, again, another reason why we have rape culture. Because they will allow cases like the Duke rape case, cases like the Hofstra rape case, that were not actual rapes. They will allow that to poison the minds of everybody else and say, oh, well, if they lied, then why didn't they lie too? Because their lives have nothing to do with the accusations of these two young women who were raped by Jesse Butler, or for anybody else, for E. Jean Carroll, who was sexually abused, found civilly liable for sexual abuse by President Donald Trump, by many other people who have to deal with the issue of rape daily. Their stories have nothing to do with Duke Lacrosse. Their stories have nothing to do with Hofstra. Their stories have nothing to do with my story. Their stories have to do with their own selves and should be dealt with on their own merits and their own merits only. Chad goes, I disagree, Dan. One trauma is not less than another just because the circumstance was worse than the other. I disagree. I think that trauma is not black and white. Yes, it's horrible. It's bad that I was traumatized. It's bad that what happened to me had a long impact on my life. What probably should have happened is I probably should have gotten put into therapy to deal with my issues back then, so it wouldn't have had such a long-lasting effect on my life. Even then, that trauma has... To try and say that my trauma is the same as somebody else who was victimized by Jesse Butler or anybody else, I don't agree with that whatsoever. So... Are people really talking about shrinkage in chat while we're discussing all this? I don't know. That's kind of weird. Let's see. 30 degrees in Charlotte. Damn. I think it's supposed to get to 35 here tonight. Bad apple should not be allowed to spoil the whole bunch. And in that case, see, and that's the thing. Like, normally you have the stating of bad apples spoil the bunch. The bad apple spoils the bunch. But in many cases, that's true with, like, like law enforcement. Oftentimes the bad apples do spoil the bunch. Oftentimes the bad apples do cause rot to take place across the spectrum with behind that thin blue line. But in other cases, you know, especially with people who are the only relation is whether or not they were a question as to whether that they made an accusation. That's the only connection between the two, and one of them is so showed to have lied. That does that. You shouldn't never ever think that anybody else lied just because one person lied. Simple as that. Now, if Donald Trump lies, and then he lies again, and then he lies again, you have plenty of reasons to distrust Donald Trump. But, you know, and maybe politicians lie. Well, politicians lie. How can you tell a politician is lying? Their lips are moving. That's how you know a politician is lying, right? So, but non-affiliated people should have nothing to do with other people that they're not affiliated with. Makes sense, right? So, anyway, maybe that should have also been a fat man rant. I don't know. To get back to Zalesville, if that's the correct way to pronounce it. How do I feel about Charlie Kirk? I didn't celebrate his death, but he was a piece of shit. He was a racist. He was a bigot and sexist, and I don't know what else to say. I mean, I have a video series. I have a video where I went over all my issues with Charlie Kirk that you can go watch if you want more of my information on what I feel about Charlie Kirk. So let's see. Back then, was therapy even a thing like it is now? Growing up, if we went to therapy, then you had mental issues in the 70s. I mean, this is the 90s. I mean, you're making me feel older than I am. But, I mean, I understand that I am a little more gray, and I do have a little grayness on top here or whatever. I understand the grayness is seeping in, becoming more salt and pepper, if you will. I understand that. But, yeah. I mean, therapy should have been a thing. I mean, my mom, at the time, was a social worker. So I'm thinking at the time my mom should have maybe realized, oh, maybe my son should need that. But I mean, hindsight's 20/20, and maybe she didn't think that I would. So I don't know. Maybe she didn't realize what harm could happen to me with that being happening to me. Maybe she realized, oh, there's not going to be a trial, there's not going to be anything. So maybe she realized it's not going to have as much an effect on him. And it had a much worse effect on me than I thought it ever would. When once I realized it, I kind of learned to deal with it. And then I went to therapy, and I did deal with it then, but that was in like 2020. So that was 23 years after the fact? No. 27 years after the fact. Ooh, I do feel old. I feel even older now. So... Karen, I didn't know your time frame. That's fine. I mean, I don't care that much. I'm just kind of joking about the fact that, you know, if you might think that I was, you know. Then again, you know, people my age, like Gen X folks, people my age, you know, we'll be like, oh, 20 years ago, back when I was in high school. And then we're like, oh, wait, that was over 30 years ago when I was in high school. Yeah. Victor, anybody see the story about Jeffrey Epstein helping Israel sell a surveillance state to south of Africa? Pretty strange story. I think I have heard something about it, but I haven't gotten into too much detail yet. Again, because there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So, what else? What else do I want to talk about? I don't think I'm going to open up the phone lines today. My voice is getting a little scraggly. I don't have any more drink. Again, I had... all weekend I was tired as all get out, and then I do have to do some after show dealings. I have to upload the Fat Man Rant. I also have to use my new AI tool to try and get some more clips made so I can process them and have them, you know, perhaps even better, get some more. I did find that two of my shorts that were created by this AI program that I signed up for or whatever, I did see like over almost 1,000 views on two of the videos, which I guess that's an improvement of some things that are going through whatever. Anyway, wait, what did I miss from Dawn? missed something? I don't know if I missed something.